Hello, hello. My name is Kathie J, and thank you for joining us today. Today's show is very personal, and I'm so honored that Dr. Patti Ashley was like, "Yes, Kathie, I'll come on and let's talk about it." Dr. Ashley is a best-selling author, psychotherapist, speaker, TED Talk speaker, as well as coach, and she's dedicated her work to just helping people through the trauma of their lives, the loss, and how it shapes our lives. Dr. Patti, thank you so much for joining us today. And you're helping us move through the pain and through the holidays, especially right now. There's no better time to talk about this. And I have to just be honest about why this is such a personal show. My sister, there was only me and my sister and I, she passed away 8 months ago. So I haven't really talked about it. So, but with the holidays here, I can't ignore it. And it's killing me. So I'm so glad that you're here. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My first question, I do want to know, let's talk about you and how your connection from your being a psychotherapist became so good about being a counselor of grief.
Yeah, well, let me go back to saying thanks for trusting me with
Yes.
your story today and the situation, and it's an honor to be a part of this conversation with you because it is hard and it's an important one to have. So, and I'm sorry for your loss. And again, thanks again for allowing me to have time to talk about it with you. So,
Thank you.
the answer to the question, my father died of a sudden heart attack when I was 11 years old, and nobody really wanted to talk about that. And if we want to put Christmas in the mix, my dad loved Christmas, and he was like the sweetest, kindest man. And, I'm 11, so it had been a few years after the Santa magic had worn off, but, it was still a special time with my dad. And so after he died and nobody really wanted to talk about what had happened, I just had this thought in the back of my mind, as a teenager that I wanted to be a therapist. And so I took a winding road to get here and made lots of babies and got into parent education because I thought that was important too. And so here I am now. I've been licensed in Colorado for 25 years and doing this work. And so grief is a big piece of what I do because I lost my father. And then I also lost my fiance to a sudden heart attack 9 years ago, the same way my father died, which was bizarro. So I wrote my book, Letters to Freedom. His last name was Freedom.
Freedom.
And I was writing him letters right before he died. And so I wrote that memoir in the hopes that it will help people understand the complexity of grief, which is, what we're talking about today. So then you add it with the holidays, it's loaded. It's loaded, paradoxically loaded with joy and sorrow.
It is. And that's why I'm so grateful that you're helping me try to unwrap it. But death happens. It happens all the time. Why do we not understand how to process it, to talk through it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's what I've been asking my whole entire life. It's
What you
like,
got?
what have I got? What I've come up with is one, it's such a horrible thing to lose someone we love. It's so painful.
Mm.
And we haven't really lived in a world that allows for that. And it's all either, you need to be happy. And if you're not happy, then there's something wrong with you. So we split. And this is what's so important, I think, about this conversation is embracing both parts of the joy and the sorrow at the same time. And I don't think we understand that that's a possibility. So we go, oh, don't want to feel bad. So how can I go over to the feel good arena? Because we like that. And that's what we're told we're supposed to be. And if I go into the bad arena, feel bad arena, then maybe I'm bad. Maybe there's something wrong with me, which is my work has evolved into the feeling of shame around, what's wrong with me if I'm grieving, because I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to be happy. And there's also this thing with mirror neurons. So to sit with somebody in grief, we feel literally, we know from a scientific perspective now that our neural pathways in our frontal lobe do the exact same thing that's happening in the person who's grieving. So we feel that pain. So we don't want to go there. So what do? Rescue remedy, go
Yes.
for a walk, be happy. Well, at least you had 10 years with him, we
Right.
try and make it better. And the hard part is we're not supposed to make it better. We're supposed to move through it. I had a client say, what did she say? I'm going to get over this soon, or I'm going to move past this soon. It's like we're trying to get past it really fast instead of moving through it. It's such a passage and it's such a transformation. I don't know if that's coming up with you and your sister, but this whole it asks you ask the bigger questions like, wow, what is life? What is death? Why are we here? What do we, and it deepens us in a way
Yeah.
when we allow ourselves to feel it. And that doesn't mean we have to go and get stuck in it, but I think that's the feeling we get is if we grieve, we're going to be in that dark hole and we're never going to get out.
Right.
But it's how do we embrace both and especially around the holidays, which is why this is such a good question.
Well,
Because
and it doesn't sound like any case is the same. It sounds like everything's different because
yeah.
we it 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 just could be it's a lot because you have well, this was her tradition, and then you're sad doing the tradition, and then maybe you need to create a new tradition to think about the future. But then if you're happy, are you feeling guilty because they're not here, or can you move? Every single situation is different. And is there a path that all of us can be guided through?
Mhm. No.
Oh, boo!
I'm surprised you still asked me to come on the show because I never have the bullet points.
Well, you always hear that thing where they're like, "Well, you gotta process the
Yeah.
anger and the
Yeah.
guilt and the this and
Yeah.
the that, and then
Yeah.
you've grieved." But that's
Yeah,
not
and
the case.
it is so different for everybody because we're so complex as human beings, right? There's no one size fits all. So
No,
the most important thing is that emotional awareness, which we've never really learned. So if
no.
we get that feeling in the pit of our stomach, that grief often feels like, it's like, oh, or we just feel very sad, or we can feel anger. And I mean, anger is an important part of grief that we don't really think about because again, we're not supposed to be angry. That's the other thing we were taught. Don't be angry.
Right, and how can
Anger's
you be angry at someone that died? How wrong is that of you?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
sometimes that's still an emotion you have to share.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly,
Right?
and it's an
It's not like you're gonna
important
stay angry at the person. I still
Mhm,
they were your family, and family is a
mhm,
different connection, and same with, like, a loss of a spouse or any of
mhm,
that, like,
mhm,
w
mhm.
it's okay to be angry. You don't have to stay there.
Yeah, and I always say all feelings are okay, but all behavior isn't. So,
Oh, yeah.
the feeling of anger and what we do with it are 2 different things, and we haven't really learned how to, effectively move anger. We think of anger as, punching somebody in the face or cussing them
Yeah,
out or something when that's not true. It's the feeling of anger is a big energy that is important to move because energy is emotion, energy, emotion. So it's a big energy and it needs to move. And so we write about it. We talk to our therapist about it, our trusted friends about it. It's important because it helps us separate. It helps us move on because, I'm mad about this. Whomever I'm mad at, the person who died, God for I mean, it's like I had to be angry at God for taking my father because that was the story I was told. Oh, he's with God. You should be happy. Well,
well,
you
right, well, that's not cool. Thanks a lot, God. Yeah, you're
know.
processing that. How often has that been said?
Yeah. Yeah.
God needed it more than he needed it here, and that is hard for a child to understand.
So hard. And
Yeah.
never say that. I always say that to people. Don't ever tell a child that you're
What do you say? I recently know of 2 kids, a 15 and 12-year-old, and their mom's no longer here. What do
yeah.
you say?
Well, until the age of 7 or 8, they can't distinguish fantasy from reality. That's why they believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and
Okay,
all that.
okay.
So when you get to be that tween age, they can understand a little bit more, but still it's this idea of, I grew up asking those 2 questions. Well, where is heaven? Where is God? And that's one question. And the other one is, what is this thing I'm feeling that I don't understand? And why does nobody want to talk about it? So, psychologically and spiritually, I've had questions my whole entire life. So, what if somebody had come to me and sat down and let me ask those questions and gave me their perspective and not told me, be happy because he's in heaven and it's all good, that wasn't my story. So we
Right.
really need to connect to what the person is experiencing, and like you said earlier, there's no one size fits all. So that's all we want is to be seen and heard, and all we want is to tell the story. They say you have to tell the story at least 100 times to move the energy of the grief out of your body, and it's
What?
hard to find people who are going to listen to that, which is why grief
Right.
groups are good, therapy's good, which is why I wrote my book because I didn't want to, burden my friends endlessly with telling the story. So I wrote about it.
Right. So that covered it. All the 100,000 copies you sold, that covers it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're done.
Way, way under over 100. Yeah.
Yeah, we're having you so right. Yes, you were. It was a bestseller, right? It was, yes, your book.
Yeah.
So congratulations. But yes, so we're speaking today with Dr. Patti Ashley. And what about the people? I mean, it's just intensified this year. All year long, they feel they're okay with the grief. And now all of a sudden, a smell, they see the ornament, anything, and it's like
Mhm.
they are just a pile of pudding. Help them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about when I say emotional awareness. So be aware of that because that's gonna happen, and it's not bad, and we won't don't wanna try and get rid of it. We wanna honor it. We wanna give it a special, maybe even give it a special ornament, give it a special that's why rituals are so important, and, one thing that really irritates me is this whole celebration of life that we have now. I
Yeah.
mean, funerals and memorial services were designed for the people come together and mourn and grieve, and it's a transition, it's a ritual. Our lives are never the same after we lose somebody we love, and
Right.
so that's what the purpose of that is, not to celebrate that they had such a good life. I mean, we do that too. Again, it's a paradox, it's both and I feel like we've lost the meaning of the ritual of moving grief by trying to, again, make it all, let's be happy, they had a great life, let's celebrate this. So ornaments and memories and things that come up, in some traditions, like in the some of the pagan traditions, they'll set a place for the person who's passed at the dinner table.
Yes, and
Mhm.
some still do. Some people still do that.
Yeah,
Families still do that. All
I
of that.
love that idea,
I do too.
and telling stories, even if we cry, so what? That's okay.
Grieving is truly just the way to accept it is to accept that it happened, that person was there, we had this life, but I go back to the celebration of life. Where's the difference? Because that to me sounds like you're saying we're accepting they died and moving on.
Mhm.
Where am I not hearing why you don't like it?
I think it's a split, like I was saying earlier. It's either all good or all bad and all good.
Oh, I see.
And when we go celebration of life, we're going to go celebrate this person because they brought so much to us, and we're going to just talk about
Right.
all the wonderful memories, and which is good. We want to do that. We don't want to cut off the fact that we're grieving and mourning and we need each other
Okay,
to
gotcha.
tell those stories too, which is the origin of funerals, and that ritual was for
Mhm.
that purpose. Even
Gotcha.
in the Jewish tradition, they cover all the mirrors for a week, and they hold Shiva. I apologize to those people out there that I may be
Mhm.
pronouncing it wrong, because that wasn't my tradition, but I love it. I love the idea. Even I'll tell you a story about that. My college roommate is Jewish, and her father died shortly after we graduated from college, and my dad had died, when I was 11. I went to her father's funeral, and I was so impressed. I almost wanted to be Jewish because
I've had those experiences before. I'm like, "Wow,
be
what is this, Episcopalian?" Like, there's been so many different times I was impressed by something. I'm
They
like,
didn't say
"How many?"
anything
Right.
about
"I'm gonna be Jewish. How many gifts do we get? This is fun."
they didn't say anything about be happy because he's in heaven
Right.
with God. What they said was they honored the man, they honored their grief, and they honored the experience of being in a body and on the earth and in a family.
Gotcha.
And I
Gotcha.
think that's what we forget when we try and celebrate and be happy and move on. He's in heaven. So,
So, it's also maybe a issue of giving yourself permission to grieve. When you live in the happy, crappy world of, "Everything was great, and I loved him," you're not you
mhm.
don't go through that other stage of your grief, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally about giving yourself permission. And it's
Yes.
hard, as you know. I mean, when you and I did this on your show with the book and talking about how do you do that without drowning, it's not exactly what we said, but it's like it was almost the feeling, and this is the way most people are, is how can I feel that much pain and still be alive in the world?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the other reason people don't want to do it, in addition to all
Yeah.
the other ones I've already mentioned.
Right, well, the pain will gut you. I
Mhm,
mean, there's
mhm.
no I mean, especially if it's the loss there's different losses, but if it's the loss of someone that's so close, it guts you it's just horrible, so, I wanna talk about the secondary losses, because it's one thing to move through the loss of they're physically no longer here.
Mhm.
There's another loss that keeps me up at night, keeps people up at night, and it's the secondary loss, and that's, like, the security that person brought, the
Mhm.
house they brought, the belongings that they had that you no longer have, like, that kind of
Mhm.
loss, that just you always thought existed while they existed, and now you're trying to figure out, "How do I deal with that?" Like, that's now with someone else that's not even a part of my world, like, it's just things like that
Mhm.
can keep people up at night, belongings and that
Mhm.
kind of loss. Can you talk to about
That's
that?
such a good question because we typically don't think about those things. We think about
Mm-mm.
a person died and that's the loss. But there's all those other things. There's divorce. I think I mentioned to you before I came on the show, ever since I've got divorced, which was 30 years ago, the whole idea of everybody getting together and we used to have big holidays,
Yeah, I
Now
bet you they're
children live
fun.
all over and their dads remarried and it's like trying to herd cats to
You're
get
right.
together and have that. And every year I grieve that. I've kind of let go of it. It's been a long time, but I've moved past it. But it's not just the physical death of someone, it's also the loss of the traditions. It's the loss of, like you said, the home. And oftentimes people, experience divorce, and that's tricky because then you got mom's house, dad's house, yeah. And I don't think we think of grief often enough that way in terms of even the little things. Even, I
Right.
mean, not to make it materialistic, but, this person used to give me this gift and now I'm not in that family anymore and I'm never going to get that gift.
Right.
And I don't want to
Which
make it materialistic because I don't care about that part, but it's, it's a memory that shifts.
but it's also more than that. When someone dies, like, I've noticed in I don't mean to say, but in the inheritance sense, where people think, "Oh, I always thought I'd get that," or something, and now it's like they've lost the person and they've lost the materialistic item that they thought, that they, were attached to that person. It's like you double lose things of people sometimes, and it really is a painful rememory.
Mhm.
Like, like, now I just have to it's almost like you do wanna shut off a wall.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the most important thing, again, emotions are energy in motion. How do you move that? And writing letters to the people that you've lost around the holidays. We do the Christmas card, but we can also write a letter to express how much we love the person or how we're feeling.
Right.
I remember when my partner died, it was right before Thanksgiving, and a friend of mine invited me up to the mountain house with a bunch of her friends for Thanksgiving dinner, and I just remember walking around like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do, until finally I was like, "Okay, I gotta go." But it was good to be invited, and it was good to be with people, and it's also important to give ourselves permission to know that it's not gonna feel like the thing about Christmas is those expectations. That's the part that I don't like, is there's an expectation. I mean, you look at the Hallmark movies and you look at all the commercials and you look at all the glitz and the trees and the this and the that and the family together. And, you know, the idea of it is nice, but we've made it this whole, I don't know if I can cuss here, but you know what I want to say, about these are the expectations.
Gotta be perfect. Everything's gotta be great.
And if I can't do that, then I'm falling short. And there's
Yeah.
the shame again. So when you're in, this is new grief. This has only been what, 6 months. So you're not going to be able to be part of that. You can sit with it, you can be with it. And how do people really support that and honor that and know that, it's not going to be the Hallmark movie. We're not going to just be, oh, well, isn't it great? We can all be together. It's like, that's what we do. Oh, well, at least we can all be together. Brene Brown says, never say at least, that's what we do. At least we're all together. At least we have us. You never want to say that. You just say,
Because why? Because why?
because it minimizes the grief
It sure
and
does,
it's trying to
yeah.
talk you out of it. Well, at least, we're, again, the mirror neurons, we're trying to make it better because we don't want to feel that.
Yep. You're
So we
right.
try and think of all the positive things, again, the celebration of life, instead of going, yeah, that's really hard. I know. And to cry and to tell stories. Again, I think that's the thing. I have a client whose mom just died, and I was saying, how's your family with the holidays? Are you going to be telling stories, about your mom? And she said, yeah, we can kind of do that. And I think that they can. Um, And I also think it's really hard because that was the thing for me when my dad died. We want to protect, it's like we're trying to protect people by not talking about it
Right.
as if it's not in our mind and our hearts. Right? So the talking about it is where the healing happens and the crying together and the holding each other. Yeah.
So here's my question to you, talking about your dad. So how did it affect you and how you handle Christmas all these years?
Well, yeah, well, when my children were little and I was still married, it was just magic and it was wonderful. Um, but when we got divorced, like I said, 30 years ago, my youngest was 6. So, it's been difficult. The whole magic of it shifted. And I've always tried to find some magic in it. It started, this whole thing of Christmas started as a pagan tradition of the solstice is the darkest day of the year, so we're going to bring light into the darkness. So for me, that's how I look at Christmas, as it's a season of light. And so we're experiencing the darkness of grief, and where's the piece of light that I can bring in to the season in the midst of the darkness, because it's dark. That's the thing. It's a dark time. It's the darkest day of the year, right before Christmas. And so how do we bring light into that? And what is that? And I think I'll get esoteric here now, but I think light is love. And love doesn't have to be rainbows and butterflies. Love is gut-wrenching, honest, this is where we are.
Yep.
And I think shining light on those pieces is what it's all about. And however we do it, however big or small or whatever our traditions are, just we have to remember that. We're bringing light and love into our hearts and the hearts of the people that we care about.
Light into the darkness. Thank you, Dr. Ashley. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. So, Dr. Ashley, the compassion you bring to everyone that quietly struggles, like it's a lot. Your work reminds us that grief isn't just something that we have to fix or rush through. So I do appreciate you always telling us to just take it easy on yourself and work through all the stages. So for anyone who's listening, who's grieving, whether you've lost someone, you've lost your sense of security, you've lost your version of life, you feel lost with what you hear in the news, you're not broken. You're not alone. Dr. Patti is right here. Dr. Patti, is there anything else you'd like to tell everyone before we say goodbye?
Um, well, first of all, thanks again, Kathy, for having me. I kind of got a little teary-eyed with my last comment because I just believe so much in love and what love is, and I don't think we really know what it is. And I've been working a lot with what is love because I don't think there's language that can describe it. So compassion and awareness and, that all feelings are okay. And you're going to get through this. I mean, and it deepens us. It deepens us and it's a passage. And so like say if you and I do this 3 years from now, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what has, and we don't know that. And we can't know that. It's kind of like the butterfly, we can't cut it open and let it out too soon. It will die. It has to be in that gooey stuff as long as it needs to be in the gooey stuff. So that's grief, is gooey stuff. And
And you got to be in the grief, bring in the gooey.
it.
PattiAshley.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashley. Happy holidays. Love you. Love you. Love you.
You too. Love you too, Kathy.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Kathie J.